Events took place in the kingdom. Someone shouted angrily that he didn't want to divorce her. The dialogue was between a guy and a girl. The young man shouted that if she was going to play with him, she should immediately leave his house. The girl with blue hair was very surprised. Did she really need to leave? The young man insisted that he knew everything about the fact that she had feelings for someone else. The girl was even more stunned after these words. Is it really she who wants to get a divorce? She, who from childhood looked only at him, who loved him with all her heart. At this moment, the young man quickly hugged the girl. The girl's name was Sofina. He told her that she shouldn't have saved him that day. Well, why shouldn't she have done this? How did it all come to this? The girl hugged her husband and did not know what to do at that moment. She was upset that he thought of her that way, when she realized that this place was the world from the novel. She was only 10 years old. She was sent to the forest on behalf of her sister, and then she was nothing more than a blue bird. She wandered through the forest and saw a cat lying not far from her. The cat was large in size, and early marks were visible on his body. It was autumn outside, and yellow leaves were slowly falling down. Far from the cat and looking at him carefully. At that time, she did not know how to return to her human form, while the cat was bleeding. The bird was not scared at all. She tried to tweet and call someone for help, but there was no one in the area, and the cat needed to be rescued urgently, and it was as if an inner voice told her that she must help this cat no matter what. The bird quickly flew around the surrounding area and collected various medicinal herbs. She needed to treat the wound as quickly as possible. She flew up to the cat and began to treat him. If this is not done now, then most likely this cat may die. She covered the wound with some substance and covered it with leaves. She knew well how to treat and heal a wound. After that, she snuggled up to the cat and fell asleep. Her sleep was very sound. The bird lay there, half asleep, wondering what this pleasant smell was. When she opened her eyes, she saw that she was lying on the edge of the forest, covered with leaves. And the cat she was saving is not around. The bird wondered if he had recovered and just left. Does this cat really not know how to thank someone for kindness? And at that moment, memories from her past life flooded into her. From what she remembered in her past life, she was an avid reader of romance novels, and she somehow was reborn into the Roman that she loved so much. She was reborn in the body of a little bluebird, and most likely lost all her previous memories. She walked up to the tree and fell on her back. However, she clearly remembered the content of the novel where she ended up. This is a romantic novel for adults with licentious characters. And of all the possible characters, she was reborn as the villain of the novel named Sophia, Lonely Bluebird, and Hold, my main character from the Leo family. Since childhood, the girl has always been an outcast in the family. The main male character from the Leo family. One fine day, he put a wedding ring on her finger, but her marriage was filled with unhappiness. The lions expected the eagle, the head of the birds, to be their mistress. They could not accept such a simple and inconspicuous blue bird like her into their family. And Safina, tortured by lions, finds solace in the arms of her husband. The main character of the novel is Richard Chadwick. It was a young man with blonde hair and blue eyes. Richard was the only one who was strong enough to help Sophia, and one day she most likely confused her desire to survive with love. Safina tried with all her might to attract Richard's attention, creating problems, but this only made him suffer. Moreover, the main character, who went to war, returned as a hostage, the heiress of an enemy family. The main character becomes the owner of the main character, a deer, and falls in love with her. And Safina is left alone with a broken heart. Looking at these two lucky ones, Athena falls into insane jealousy. And at this moment, there are even more terrible acts. In the end, this led to the main character leaving her too, and she was beaten to death by the Lion Clan, who always did nothing but despise her. And that was the end of it. She paid for all her actions. The bird lay and sobbed. Is this how her life will end? She pinched herself to see if she was asleep or already awake. The reality is that she still can't turn into a human. Even if she knows the original story, she is in a situation where she simply has nowhere to go. She can only wait for the right moment to escape. It was one winter day 3 years later. She sat under a tree and wondered if her sister was really that cruel. As soon as she learned to transform into a human, she immediately received an assignment from her older sister. She sent her to look for wild strawberries in the middle of winter. The girl was very upset. She was dressed in a light dress. Her legs were big. She was born the only bluebird in the Eagle clan. She was an outcast since childhood. Born into the Bird Alliance clan that dominates the Western continent, although she didn't know which bluebird mixed with the eagle's brood. I didn't want to recognize her as a family member. Her father always told her that he kept her alive in the hope that someday she would be useful to someone. The past head decided to keep her alive, but she had to endure daily bullying from her brothers and sisters. After eating strawberries, the girl sat down under a tree and could no longer walk. They didn't listen to her. From the snow, we were frozen to the bones. Even her little sister, the clan leader, should know that strawberries do not grow in winter. Or maybe it was just an excuse to make fun of her. The girl tried to warm her hands at least a little with her breath. She knew that if she returned empty-handed, she would simply be locked in the attic. And then she turned into a little bluebird. She grabbed the basket with her beak and quickly flew away. She decided that she would relax in the room after finishing all her work. When the bird flew into the house, she was surprised that the house was surprisingly very quiet. The bird began to chirp happily. But at that time, a girl saw her. She angrily screamed at the bird to stop chirping and get out of here. The bird flew up to the girl and waved its arms. The girl asked not to talk to her like that, and she hit the bird with a click. The bird grabbed its head with its wings. Tears began to flow from her eyes. It was her sister, and she said the bird didn't come back in time, and the sister shouted for the bird to fly quickly after her if it didn't want to die. The girl quickly grabbed the basket of decorations that the bird had brought. The sister said that the Lion King of Beasts had invaded their home, and no one else is to blame but her sister. The bird sat and looked at the girl in surprise. She couldn't believe her ears. Did the lion himself invade their home? Didn't Sophia marry the main character who was from the Lev family? And Sophia remembered one of the fragments of her wedding. She thought it was time for the story to begin. The atmosphere in the estate has been very tense lately. The bird flew after its sister, not lagging behind. Once upon a time, the eagles insulted the head of the lions, which led to a deterioration in relations between the clans. Even an attack on the territory of the eagles, which is the size of a small state, is unexpected. And the bird asked if they shouldn't run away from here. She did not understand why the roar of the lions was heard closer and closer. Her sister was running and didn't understand why the secret passage wasn't appearing. The bird was stunned. This secret passage was on a completely different side. She was surprised who made her sister's head. After all, she knew absolutely nothing about it. The girl screamed in horror that they were doomed. The bird also did not want to die for you. How could it fulfill its plan? And the lion came closer and closer along the corridor. His eyes were fierce and burned with fire. His paws were long and razor-sharp. The lion is slowly but surely getting closer and closer. The girl in the red dress stood motionless. A small bird flew next to her. It was already too late to do anything. The girl said that it would all be over if the lion bit her. She quickly grabbed the bird by its hind legs and turned it upside down. The bird was very surprised. The girl raised her hand, waving a bird. The bird just chirped pitifully, and she threw it forward. The bird flew forward at speed, and the girl rushed after it. The bird flew and wondered if her sister really didn't care about her at all. Is she really going to die like this? Such a stupid death. The bird flew and closed its eyes. But suddenly she felt that she had softly landed somewhere. She wasn't in pain. It was warm and cozy. It turns out she landed right on the lion's nose. Well, the bird didn't know that yet. When she opened her eyes, she was simply stunned. She must be crazy. How can it be that she is sitting right on Leo's nose? They looked into each other's eyes for a few seconds. The bird's plumage tickled the lion's nose, and he sneezed heavily. At this moment, the bird seemed to be stupefied. Maybe she was just blown away by the lion's breath. Or maybe she became very scared and couldn't control herself. She fell to the floor. The bird quickly got up and lost its eye with its wing. When she looked closely at the lion, she saw that he has a certain mark on his forehead. The bird knew this sign well. This label is only available for the corner of the family. And the bird began to replay it in her head. The head of the main character. And she is the future daughter-in-law of the Lev family. This means this Leo is her future mother-in-law. The current head of the lions was Con Chadwick. It was a young man with golden hair. According to the novel, her skills and strength were considered the most outstanding in the Leo family. The bluebird understood. She definitely couldn't cope with her, and she covered her mouth with her wings. After a few seconds, she raised her hands up and said that she was giving up. Tears appeared in my eyes, and so Lev's wet nose buried itself in her side. The bird became very scared. She simply cowered from fear. But at that moment, Leo began to lick her with his wet and rough tongue, and the bluebird heard a voice address her. Her voice was in her head. This voice belonged to Con Chadwick. Only powerful beasts can communicate telepathically. The bird also mentally told her mother that she was incredible. If she's cool, then she's a little sister. If she's cute, she's a cutie. And if she's strong, then she's a mother. The lioness looked attentively at the bird. The bird realized that apparently she was looking very hard at the lioness, and she quickly looked away. The lioness was very curious that such a quick reaction followed from the bird. It was very interesting for a bird. The bird hoped she wasn't talking about how it tasted. The bird thought for a while, closed its eyes, and fell like a stone to the floor. The lioness stood and carefully watched the bluebird. And the bird thought, if she was cute, she wouldn't eat her. But then the lion asked if she really wanted to fight with her. It was as if the bird had been struck by lightning. She didn't mean to fight her. I understood the singer completely wrong. But suddenly the lioness saw some kind of sign on the bird's body. This sign was on the bird's wing. It was an oval-shaped image that glowed. The bird quickly covered itself. She didn't understand why the lioness was looking at her like that. Suddenly, the lioness came up and quickly grabbed the bird by the neck. The bird had already said goodbye to life, but after a while, she realized that the lioness just wanted to take her somewhere. And this is exactly how all representatives of the cat family carry their cubs. The lioness walked slowly down the corridor. On the way, they met other lionesses who also walked here. The bird hung and trembled. Tears appeared in her eyes again. She was very scared. It was also scary because of the unknown of where she was taking her. And so they approached one of the rooms. The bluebird immediately realized that this was her father's room. The door quickly opened and they went inside. A tied-up man was sitting near the table. He was shaking with fear. The person slowly holding the bird in his teeth entered the room. The man began to cower even more with fear. And then the bird saw that the lioness had tied up her father. She quickly covered her eyes with her wings. She couldn't bear to watch such violence. Suddenly, the lioness asked the other Leo to take the bird into the garden and play with it a little. She quickly unclenched her teeth and the bird fell on the lion cub's head. It felt warm and cozy on my head. It became clear to the birds what their conversation was about. Most likely, the father simply sold it. The bird pressed itself to the lion's head and sat there silently. After thinking a little, she sat down and thought proudly that now she must only move forward. It's time for her to get married. The bird understood that now it would be very difficult for her to escape the influence of the original. All animals have their own unique abilities. For example, Orlu has tracking ability. They can easily find out what distance and where their target is by one feather. But she didn't like being at home so much that she kept running away every time the moment was right. She lay closed in the room and did not understand. Why would they even take her? She really wanted to eat, but no one came to her. Moreover, because of one prediction, which she really knew nothing about. And this prediction was that among all birds, the bluebird is considered a bad sign. This means that even if she avoided her, no one would take her in. And since the bluebirds have nowhere better to go than in the original, to become the wife of the main character, so she can protect herself and escape from the annoying ones. Moreover, she knew what would happen to Sufina in the future. She lost her life due to her obsession with the main character. And in order to survive now, the girl will be smarter, and she will not show interest in him. After that, she will simply divorce him and gain freedom. The bird lay on its back and near the lion and considered itself the happiest. Should you be jealous or mock the main character? It's probably better that she sleeps for me. When she becomes an adult and gains independence, she will be able to start a normal life. And finally, she can live happily. At this time in the room, the man himself was sitting at an angle and asking for forgiveness for his offensive behavior during their last meeting. The man asked if he could offer you something, and the lioness said that this man irritates her very much. At this time, she was lying on the sofa and the man was sitting on his knees next to her. The man asked if she would save his life. He would send her tribute every year. And further, the man bent down and hit his forehead. He is ready to give them all the gold and jades, as well as his only precious daughter. Of course, he did not want to give her his beloved daughter. He was ready to send them this annoying sir. The lioness quickly released her claws and stretched them across the upholstery of the sofa. Is he really inviting her to enter into a political marriage? The eagle family are representatives of the bird alliance, so if they make an agreement with them, they will open the Lyman Canal, which passes through the divine land. And of course, the man was ready to ask for an alliance, and an annual one. The lioness's eyes sparkled with interest. It wasn't a bad offer. They really wanted to get the Lyman Canal. Well, they couldn't do it. And at this time the person said something, and the bluebird. She said that she would take her with her. Only she is worthy to be her son's bride. The lioness felt a familiar energy from her wing. This is the energy of her first son. and that sign that was on the wing of the bluebird, like a second life or a second heart for animals. Such signs appear only after the conclusion of the contract. The person did not know how they knew each other, but if she concluded a political brother, it would be better if it was there, with whom he has some kind of connection. And everyone also knew about the bluebird from the prophecy. If this is her, then it is better to keep her with you and keep an eye on her. The man did not understand where the head of Lvov met Sophia. Although what difference did it make to him? She apparently has no eyes at all. And then the lioness said that they would establish a tribute in the amount of 10 million kalia. The man was very surprised. What is she saying? This is the income of their entire family for 5 years. Alice asked if the man really didn't want to. The man said that she would get whatever she wanted. But then the lioness showed her fangs. The man trembled again with fear. For some reason, the lioness began to feel as if he was hiding something from her. She hit the man with her tail, and he flew to the side. The disgusting man never really told her anything. She will have to find out for herself what he is hiding from her. And she walked proudly down the corridor. At this time, a young woman was already walking along the corridor who had turned from a lion into a man. She was very interested in how the bluebird was spending his time there, and she decided to find out about it as soon as possible. The woman went out into the garden and approached one of the lions with whom the bird was walking. The lion lay in the sun and dozed, and next to him a bluebird danced. She touched his paws, but Lev did not react. His claws were hidden. The bird touched him anyway. After a while, she just got tired and collapsed on her back next to Lev. It was very difficult for her to play with the lion, but at this time the lion stood up and the bird fell. She lay head down and trembled. When suddenly she heard someone say hello to her, she quickly raised her head and looked. It was the woman who called the bird her bride. The bird was very surprised to hear this. The bird was surprised. Daughter-in-law? Why did she suddenly call her that? She just called her daughter-in-law. What does this mean? After thinking a little, the bird decided which means, and she paid attention to this woman. She had bright golden hair, light yellow eyes, and the bird guessed that this was Con Chadwick. And it was cool that she turned into a human. The bird squealed joyfully, waved its wing, and greeted its mother. If she behaves well, she can live a good life. And suddenly the bird realized that she had no clothes. She couldn't turn into a human form like that now. The woman wondered if she really wanted her to introduce herself first. No need to think. The woman said that she is the head of Lviv Con Chadwick, and she quickly touched the bird's wing with her 2 fingers. This symbolizes a handshake. Suddenly the woman said that she still wanted to tell her something, and she extended her open, outstretched palm to the bird. The bird quickly climbed onto her hand, and the woman brought it to her eye level. She said that from that day on, she was her mother-in-law. The bird pretended to be surprised. If she realizes that she already knows everything, she will begin to suspect her. The woman said that she had come to enter into a marriage alliance with the eagles. The bird seemed embarrassed and rubbed its wing. She also said that the bluebird was the most unusual of all the birds that she had ever met. Is she really not at all afraid of entering the Leo family? It's not that she didn't like it. The woman told Lev that tomorrow she was returning to the mainland. She again placed the bird on the lion cub's head and asked him to look after her. Everything was clear. So tomorrow they are already heading to the lion's mansion. So we need to hurry. She has so much money and precious stones hidden in different parts of the house. This is her rainy day money, so she really wouldn't want to find out about it. I wondered if she could pick up all her things without being noticed. She needs to try. Suddenly Lev bent his back, opened his mouth, and let out a roar. Everything was clear. He already wants to sleep. The bird began to stroke him with its wings and wish him sweet dreams. After some time, Lev lay down and fell fast asleep. The bird wiped the sweat from its forehead. Finally fell asleep. She urgently needed to take advantage of this opportunity now, and she quickly flew into the house. She began collecting jewelry and stones from all corners. She discovered this ability in winter. It's good that she trained little by little over several years. Still, abilities become stronger through training. Eagles have a special ability, tracking. And she has this ability, telekinesis. She had to work hard so that no one would find her jewelry. If her brothers or sisters found out that she had such wealth, they would definitely take it all for themselves. But at that moment, the door to the room opened, and a bright light fell on the bird. She was just sitting next to a bag of jewelry. Her sister and brothers were on the threshold. The sister was very surprised that the birds managed to survive the attack of the lions. Everyone now understands that she is very tenacious. The bird exhaled in annoyance. As soon as she remembered them, they were already here. The sister said that the father was beaten and signed a contract on terrible terms under pressure from the lions. and she asked the bluebird what she was doing in the attic at such a time. The sister asked if she understood what was happening at all. My sister and I showed Bluebird some document certified by a seal. I told her that she was just a bride in name, but in reality the lions would just eat her. The bluebird was surprised. The sister talked so much as if she had already planned something. Suddenly, brother approached his sister and said that she would have to try for all of them, and he brought jewelry in a box. At first glance, this decoration looked as usual. It looked like a lion's eye. In fact, this decoration was magical. The bird grabbed its face with its wings. Really? Remind me of this necklace from the original. It was a siphon necklace that she kept secretly with her. He deceives the main character and gives her this necklace, because of which she suffered greatly, and Sophia was made to blame, because she was the one who gave this necklace. It was because of this necklace that Sufina was completely rejected by the main character. The bluebird had absolutely no idea and did not expect that the brothers and sisters would give her such an important thing. The brother pushed a box with a necklace towards the Sophia. He said to be grateful to use this necklace on your wedding day. He asked to repay for everything they did for her. The bird blushed and puffed out its cheeks. Why are they asking her for this? If they have a conscience at all or not. After all, they lived side by side with them for 13 years. And in the end, they give her this terrible necklace. She was very irritated and angry because she expected something good from them. For Sufina in the original, it's exactly the same. Because she couldn't use the necklace and just carried it around with her. The bird squealed and flew up. Her brother shouted at her, how dare she behave like that. The brothers and sisters consulted and decided that they needed to leave. They managed to get out with such difficulty, and if they stay here for a long time, the lions will get angry. The bluebird was still a toy for the lions, and the brothers and sisters decided that if they got caught now, it would only get worse. Sister said to Bluebird, she hoped that she would make the right choice. And the sister asked the girl not to do anything stupid. Brother, you have already turned and looked at the bluebird. It was a pity to somehow part like this. And he quickly grabbed the bird by the head. He brought her to the lamp hanging in the room and tied her upside down by her paws. He said that this was because she spoke rudely to him. Is it really possible to talk to everyone older than her like that? The brother asked her to think about her behavior while she was tied up here. The bird was hanging upside down and flapping its wings. Is this really serious? Do they all think she's scared? And she decided now to use her ability. She quickly untwisted herself, thereby untying the rope. A few seconds and she was already free. It's good that they don't know about her ability. Yes, she also has the ability. She also had a good idea. She decided that tomorrow she would leave this place forever. Until then, he can finally take sweet revenge. And she also needs to deal with this necklace alone. At this time, I was already looking for the bird in the park with all my might. At this time, she approached the lion and asked where her daughter-in-law, the bluebird, was. Bread raised his head and could not understand anything. After all, he fell asleep. The woman said how you can sleep on enemy territory. Has he completely lost his touch? Lev just lowered his eyes and ears in offense. He knew that now he was to blame. He fell asleep and missed the bluebird. And the woman asked Leo to think about his behavior while she looked for the bird. And she stroked his back. Khan went looking for the bluebird. In Sophia's thoughts, she was a kind and fluttering sweet bird. The woman did not think at all that she could fly somewhere far. This means that it is somewhere nearby and you just need to look for it a little. Will it really be that difficult to find a small bird? But the woman was ready to find her at any cost, and so she went to where the attic was. Maybe she's huddled around here somewhere. The woman quickly grabbed the handle and pulled. The woman had such strength that she broke off a piece of the door along with the handle. And there really was a blue bird sitting behind the door. Next to her stood a bag of jewelry. The woman gasped. The door was so light that she broke a piece. The bird quickly hid behind the bag. She realized that this woman had come for her. The woman asked the bird if she was completely alone. Did her relatives really leave her? The bird squeaked and asked if she really meant her brothers and sisters. Does she really not know about them at all? Everything was great. Now is the perfect opportunity to tell Mother what her brothers and sisters did to her. She couldn't speak as a bird, but she can use her body language. She tried to explain to her mother that this necklace was very dangerous. She pointed her wing at this necklace, and then jumped up and fell like a stone on the table. After that, she stood up and smiled sweetly at the woman. The bird wondered if the woman understood her sign language. The woman praised the bird for its talent and thanked it for its performance. She clapped her hands, but did not understand anything. She did not understand what the bird wanted to tell her about the necklace. The bird squealed cheerfully and tumbled again. She did this by somersaulting forward. After that, she did a back somersault. Everything worked out great for her. The woman was surprised that she could actually turn sideways, and the bird showed all its acrobatic techniques. An hour has passed. To sum it all up, this necklace is a bomb, and the eagles forced it to take it. The bird, almost exhausted, was very happy that the woman finally understood her. But there is one thing. The woman didn't understand why she told her everything in the form of a bird. The bird grabbed the woman by the sleeve and made it clear that she had no clothes. She can't turn into a human right now. After all, she needs some kind of dress. The woman understood the bird well. She needs to find new clothes. Khan asked the bird to follow her. While she was looking for it, she spotted a good dressing room, and the woman went forward, and the bird, carrying the jewelry on its back, flew after her. The woman walked to the gilded door and pressed the handle. A bluebird sat on a woman's shoulder. The door opened and they entered a large room. It was simply huge. The bird didn't even expect that they had such a dressing room at home, and she had never seen her before. Before that, she was often locked in the closet, and she wore things that her sisters threw away. She couldn't even imagine that they had a lot of beautiful dresses in their house. It was good that all these dresses fit her in size. Apparently, they left everything that was in good condition. The girl chose one of the orange dresses decorated with embroidery on the chest and bottom. She makes this dress and goes out to the woman who was sitting on the sofa at that moment. The girl came out from behind the curtain and asked if this dress suited her. The woman was silent and only looked at her with a surprised look, and so she asked the girl to tell her name. The girl said her name was Sofina. The girl, embarrassed, grabbed the hem of her dress, and the woman began to examine her and said that the girl was very small and also thin, and she said that the girls would definitely need to gain weight. The girls felt funny and not very funny. The woman spoke as if she needed to be fed and then eaten. The girl asked what kind of food she prefers. Remember Leo? The girl realized that this woman had a very frightening look. After thinking a little, she smiled cheerfully and said that she really loved fruit, but she doesn't really like to eat insects. And then the woman asked how she felt about meat. The girl looked at the woman in surprise. The woman said that the veal is very tender and tasty, and now the girls will definitely need to eat it. The girl was just surprised. She's a bluebird. Of course, it is strange to eat meat in the form of a bird, but in human form she can eat anything. But she also feels sorry for the calves. They are very cute. She must look good in front of her mother, so she should not be refused under any circumstances. And she cheerfully said, okay. If necessary, she will also eat veal. At that moment, the woman stood up and spoke. If they have already solved the problems with clothes, then it's time for them to go. The girl didn't understand where they needed to go now. The woman turned around and wanted to leave, but the girl called her. The woman quickly turned around and looked at the girl in surprise. The girl asked if she could give it to her too. The woman did not understand why she needed it. The girl would really like to take revenge on her brothers and sisters, and she asked the woman if she could use it. She promised that this would not cause her any inconvenience, and the woman said that let the girl do as she wants. And she once again called the girl daughter-in-law. At this time, the woman coughed several times into her fist. The girl looked at the woman with a surprised look. She was very glad that the woman agreed. The girl with blue hair smiled and said thank you very much. Khan said that they need to leave tomorrow, and now the girl has time to rest. It was night outside. There were a lot of stars in the sky. The girl was lying on the bed and couldn't believe that she had been given a comfortable guest room. As she heard, the brothers and sisters, the father, were all locked in their rooms, and this made the girl very happy. And so she took that ill-fated necklace in her hands. She asked the birds to be careful. The events took place on the estate. The girl got out of bed and went towards the kitchen. A knight stood near the door and guarded the entrance to the kitchen. She approached the young man and apologized. The girl explained that she couldn't have dinner today, and she asked permission to go into the kitchen and get herself something to eat. She held a lamp in her hand. The young man looked at the girl in surprise. He didn't know what to do. Despite this, he quickly let the girl inside. She had absolutely no idea that she would be able to come to an agreement so easily. Does this young man already know that she is a bride in the Leo family? Her sisters and brothers didn't tell her, but they were often in the kitchen. She had a hard time shaking off the influence of the originals after she found out she was in Roman. The girl walked around the kitchen a little and stopped near one place. What she needed was somewhere here, and then one day she was able to find a secret safe. It was one of the daughters who was standing in the kitchen. The girl came closer and extended her hands to the barrels. The barrels spun, lit up with green fire, and rose upward. The girl was very happy that the fruits of her efforts finally began to show themselves. And this safe had a passage to the basement. And then the secret passage appeared. In the basement were kept land documents that could be used to threaten small defenseless animals. The girl quickly went down into the secret passage, and as soon as she tried to get out of it, how I heard someone's voice. She was asked what she was doing here. In front of her stood the female head of the lions. The girl didn't even imagine that she would be able to see her here. She gasped in surprise. She said that she had one good deed to do here, and the woman looked at her carefully. And after that, she said, since she wants to do some good deed, then let her continue, and she will not interfere with her. And so the girl approached the safe. The woman stood behind her and watched her carefully. To open it, the girls will have to use their ability. Of course, I didn't want to show her family, but everything can be shown to my mother. I, a girl, thought that let everything be as it will be, and she held out hers. A green light swirled around the safe from the hand. Suddenly the safe opened, and the girl and woman saw that there was a stack of documents in the safe. Khan was very surprised to see these documents. Apparently, this is exactly what the Lev family was hiding from them. The woman asked the girl what she was going to do next. The girl took the documents in her hands and smiled happily. She wants to throw bait. The next morning came. Brothers and sisters stood near the palace, and the father was also sitting in a wheelchair. A woman, the head of Lvov, came to them, and Safina stood next to her. The man wished the Leo had a good trip and asked him to take care of himself. Oddly enough, the girls, neither father nor brothers nor sisters, didn't even say a word. They didn't even say goodbye to her, although she didn't expect them to do anything differently. The woman said it was time for them to leave, and she put her hand on the girl's shoulder. The girl had an amulet hanging on her chest. Her brother noticed this necklace. She still took it for herself. At this time, a plane flew by and hit my sister right in the head. Where could this paper airplane come from? And the sister quickly picked up the airplane that had fallen to the ground. But when she turned the plane around, she was horrified. She immediately turned to her father. A large number of paper airplanes flew out into the street. She said that these were hidden documents. They stood and looked in amazement at the airplanes descending to the ground, and Safina stood and smiled. This is the very beginning, and there is no need to be afraid. She was clutching a necklace in her hand. She quickly threw the necklace and it flew up. The sister only managed to shout stop. How it exploded in the air. Where these planes flew. Pieces of burnt paper and ashes began to fall to the ground. All their documents were destroyed. The father grabbed one of the pieces of paper, but nothing was visible on them. It was terrifying for them. The documents for the land were all insignificant. Every single one of their documents. How it happened. The brother fell to the ground and began to collect these pieces that remained. After that, he realized that this was the work of their sister, who stood at that moment with folded arms and carefully watched them. The girl thought about it, that it was mother who did it and not she, and she quickly walked towards her brother. She came very close to him and bent down to tell him something. In a whisper, she told him that it was she who did it, and she asked him if he liked it. The brother was simply stunned. He did not expect such behavior from his sister. At this time, the girl cheerfully said that they had to go. Departing from Athena, she said, "Get it," and secretly stuck out her tongue to her relatives. They quickly got into the carriage, and the carriage drove away. The girl was sitting in the carriage, leaning back on the sofa. She was very tired and really wanted to sleep. At that moment, she turned into a bluebird. It was difficult for her to use so much power at once. Her mother-in-law was sitting next to her. The first aid kit next to the woman fell asleep sweetly. The woman stroked her head, and the birds were incredibly nice. Well, I dreamed of a strong explosion. She opened her eyes in horror and perked up. But at that moment, the woman's gentle hand pressed her. It was terrible. After they drove away, the estate where the bluebird used to live exploded. The bird looked out the window and realized that its mother was very angry. And the girls have no choice but to quickly get used to life in the House of Love. A month has passed since then. The events took place on his estate. It seemed like just yesterday she promised herself to quickly get used to life here. And now a whole month has passed. Time flew by very quickly. Fortunately or not, Leo's life was very calm. There were so many amazing things that the girls had no time to be bored. And so she came to one rare tree from the novel. She also didn't know much about lions, so she spent a lot of time studying. There were no such details in the original. Sometimes the girl simply fell asleep with textbooks. She also practiced her ability, so the days passed very quickly. All the time she was haunted by one question. When will the main character return? When she arrived here, the main character went with other animals to resolve the conflict. The wedding day was coming soon. Mother asked not to worry about anything. She would take care of the organization herself. Well, the girl wanted to at least see his face before the wedding. She also wanted to know about her family. What happened to her brothers and sisters? Did they survive the fire or not? Their home and inheritance were taken from them. Therefore, the girl was sure that they would not cause her any more trouble. It would be terrible, of course, if they wanted to take revenge on her for the situation with the documents. But now she was protected by fair lions, so the princess decided not to worry. And in the original, there was no explosion of the house at all. Maybe it was better for her. Her only goal is to avoid death. She firmly decided for herself that she would not become attached to the main character. She will help with the management of the regions and will receive recognition from Lviv. And in the end, she will be able to divorce calmly and without complaint. At this time, the maid looked into the room and said that the mistress was calling her. The girl thanked her for the notification and said that she would come now. More precisely, she looked at the girl suspiciously. The princess also felt the relationship between this and the maids towards her. And for some reason, I didn't like her. In general, it would be strange if all Leos treated her well from the very beginning. Well, the girl was sure that the situation would improve over time. The girl knew the most important thing, that her mother liked her. Therefore, she should not worry about trifles. And then the girl entered the office. Mother was sitting at the table and signing some papers. She was glad that her daughter-in-law came to her. And Mother asked her to sit down. Mother poured a cup of tea. What was the relationship between them in the original? The girl did not remember at all that the relationship between Mother and Sufina was mentioned at all in the novel. Having poured the tea, the mother brought it to the girl. And the girl thanked her for the tea. She may have looked stupid, but her mother looked after her. After that, she said that the wedding would take place the day after tomorrow. The bluebird opened its mouth in surprise. She didn't expect the wedding to happen so quickly. What is Mother talking about? She hadn't even seen his face yet. And then Mother said that her future husband would return tomorrow. The girl thought a little and said that it would all be faster than she thought. It was so wild to hear about her husband. Her future husband's name was Ricardo Chadwick. This was the main character of the original and her husband. To be honest, even I know the original. She didn't quite remember what his full name was, but she was able to check it. Saw the name on his portrait, which hung in the estate. The man took the girl by the chin and asked who he was to her. The cat looked at her eyes in surprise and said that he was the owner. The man said that she should then address him appropriately. According to the original, the main character gave him the name Master, because he is the biggest debauchee, the fallen protagonist of the novel, and a little bird like her might die from the shock of his tricks. The girl decided that she needed to be more careful. The woman asked why the girl was trembling. Is she really feeling bad? She tried to calm herself down and said that she was fine. Now, more than ever, the Sufina needed to keep her face. It was impossible for her to be hated. The woman looked at the girl again, speechless. She said that her husband has negative aspects, but that does not mean that he is a bad person. The girl laughed cheerfully and said of course. At that moment, the woman said that if he offended her, she could simply hit him. At this time, the girl choked on her tea and started coughing. What does she mean? Well, at this point, the woman said that she could tell him that his mother allowed him to do this. The girl didn't understand how she would dare the main character's money. The woman said that if she sees any inappropriate treatment, she can also intervene. At this time, someone knocked on the door and the woman asked to enter. A young man appeared on the threshold. He said that, as he had previously warned, the snake caught in the border region was irritated because it was hungry. The girl didn't understand what the border region meant. And what kind of snake? What even happened here? The woman was indignant. Was it really worth interrupting their tea party because of this? She asked him to tell the snake to be patient for a while and he would come soon. Orars quickly bowed and left. It was already 3 o'clock on the clock. The woman said that a lot of time had passed and they were waiting for her. Mom promised that later she would definitely introduce the girl to her son. The bluebird said okay and she will wait. And she quickly walked out the door. The maids were already whispering in full swing in the corridor. It was big news that the young master was returning. Everyone was discussing whether the bluebird would really become a young mistress. The girl realized that when they talk about the bluebird, they mean her. One of the maids said that she found it very unpleasant to serve bluebirds. All the maids disliked her. How dare she even become the daughter-in-law of the lion family? She's short. She has a strange hair color and can hardly be called beautiful. Poor young master. How upset he will be when he returns. He doesn't like bluebirds. What if he kicks her out of the house altogether? Bluebird was very hurt to hear about this. The maids don't deserve to hate her so much, but she got used to the fact that other animals always disliked her. But this does not mean at all that she should turn a blind eye to such behavior. The girl came a little closer and asked the maids if they were talking about her now. The maids shuddered. They didn't expect that she heard everything, and the girl said that they spoke so loudly that it was difficult not to hear it. Now you can't seem weak. She didn't care that they didn't like her. but they can at least speak a little quieter. If she left it like this, she would become vulnerable. The maid quickly lowered her head and asked for forgiveness. It was surprising that they apologized so obediently, most likely due to the fact that they are very afraid of their mother. But it was a shame to forgive them just like that, and the girl came up with a punishment for them. She asked them to wash all the clothes she bought. Like this. She will make them work. The maid said okay. They will do everything. And the Garoto girl looked into their eyes. She needs to hold on and not give up. Even her mother calls her daughter-in-law, so she should keep it. She tried to put on a stern appearance in front of the maids, but she still couldn't do it so easily. She didn't expect approval from them. But it's still unpleasant to meet so directly with those who don't like her. The girl quickly raised her fist and said that she was fine. She has a good relationship with her mother, and she will rely on her. She put her hands down and decided that she needed to take a little walk. She just needed to unwind by going for a walk. She went outside and saw the maids who were washing her things. They worked very hard, and at that moment, even the girls began to say fragments of phrases. That they will really do this. The girl listened. What were they planning? One of the maids said that if they upset their first dance, the mistress would also lose interest in the bluebird. Then they won't have to wait on her anymore. And you don't have to worry, they won't get caught. One of the maids said that this was not a very nice way for a noble family to give a lion. And she asked this maid who came up with this plan to come to her senses. All others will already consider them servants of this little thing. Everyone saw how she wanted to provoke them into a quarrel. If everything is left like this, then she will even think of herself as the queen. It was amazing how many bad things they could come up with about her. Do they really want to ruin their first dance? But what exactly will it look like? And the girl went to the laundry basket. A wonderful plan came to her mind. They saw that they even left this basket with laundry, and she will use this evidence against the maids. The girl quickly picked up the basket of laundry. The basket was very heavy. The girl herself did not expect that it would be so heavy. She brought it far into the forest, and she fell under a tree, exhausted. She is very tired. She wanted the wind to blow. Maybe she should use telekinesis now. This was the first time she had used her ability in this way. If only all the bad things would fly far away too. And at this time a light breeze blew. The wind rose more and more. Suddenly the girl heard whose voice it was. The voice said that he had not seen her here before. Is she really his fiancée? The girl lay on the ground and carefully looked up. There was a young man above her. He almost pressed her to the ground. Why did she shake the tree so much that he fell? After all, you can get hurt. The boy had a mask on his face, and it was impossible to fully see his face. The girl looked carefully and realized that most likely it was a white lion. The girl said that she didn't know who he was and thanked him for the experience. She quickly pushed the young man aside and stood up. But the young man said that it was not for her but for him that she should worry. In short, everyone was near the girl and said that he almost got hurt. The young man had blonde hair and blue eyes. The girl was surprised. It turns out he was worried about her. It turns out he was worried about himself. And she looked sternly in his eyes. And then she realized that it was she who had shaken the tree with her wind. And so this boy fell from the tree. It turns out that she really needed to worry about him. This turns out to be her mistake. The girl stood up and apologized to the boy. But the boy said there was no need to apologize. He looked into her eyes carefully. The girl did not understand what was happening. She apologized. Then why is he looking at her like that? At that moment, the girl grabbed her hand. The mark on her hand hurt really bad. This has never happened before. Most likely it was his gaze that affected the girl. The girl said everything was fine. But the boy said that he didn't think so, and most likely he had broken his arm. The girl wondered if he was cheating. He himself fell from the tree onto her, and now she claims that she broke her arm and it was her fault. I thought he was very strange and decided it was better not to get involved with him. The girl quickly retreated and once again apologized that he fell from the tree. And she also hoped that everything would be fine with his hand. The girl said goodbye and walked away, and the boy stood and carefully looked after her. While driving, he realized that she had forgotten the basket. At that moment, he looked at the same mark on his hand. I wondered if he could force her to take responsibility for his hand. And the girl moved further and further away from that place. She arrived at the estate, closed the door behind her, and sighed with relief. But it didn't understand who it was. He has such snow-white hair and blue eyes. This is a sign only of white Leos. She had heard before that there were many white lions in the house. This was the first time she had seen one in person, also somewhat unbalanced. Is this really the same lion? But still, it's not worth making noise in the Chadwick family's house. He is hardly an aristocrat. Well, who is he? And why does it bother her so much? The girl walked around the room in circles and did not understand what was happening to her. Did he really see her ability? This was the first time she had used her ability in this way. She calmed down, because even after what happened in the Orlov's house, there was no noise. She did not want to reveal her ability to anyone, but she ended up with some strange stranger. Or not. Feels like she's missing something. Stop thinking about him because there's nothing you can do. The most important thing is the conversation she heard today. If they upset their first dance, the mistress may also lose interest in the bluebird. The field people believe that a marriage will be successful if the waltz between the bride and groom goes perfectly. This is why the first dance is so important for marriage. And the girl imagined how they were dancing with this blonde young man. And if a mistake occurs due to someone else's fault, then we can say that the mark of failure appears on the person. The girl fell on the bed and covered her eyes with her hands. She didn't want to die like in the original. She needs at all costs for her wedding to go well. This is the only way she can survive. She still needs to do something to stop the maids. They want to destroy her dance and do what is not appropriate for lions. If she finds out what it is, she can stop them. She will do everything to understand what they have planned. To begin with, she grabbed the bell string. She rang it loudly. After some time, 3 maids appeared on the threshold, gossiping about the girl. And the girl said that this was her dress and she asked them to look after it before the wedding. The girl also asked to hem the jewelry that was on her neck. After all, it is a little loose. The maids immediately bowed and said of course they would do everything. The girl smiled slyly. The trap was prepared. She showed them a very easy path, which means they will most likely follow it and abandon their complex plan. Lions in a cage. Fortunately, thanks to her mother, she had a large number of dresses. Oh, and this is a simple ceremony, so you can choose a dress that is not fancy. The main thing is to leave everything else she likes safe. She didn't care if they tore this dress or sent something weird on it. The main thing is that they abandon their complex plans and decide to ruin the dress. And she'll just wear something else to the ceremony. And the girl said that the maids could go. The maids quickly left the door and knocked loudly on her. And the girl fell on the bed and was happy with you. She is very tired today. After all, today she just got a lot of stress. And now she has already turned into the image of a bird lying on the pillow. In order for her to recover better, she needs to be in the form of a bird. There was still an hour left before dinner with Mother. She has time to take a little nap. She covered herself with a blanket and fell fast asleep. But she couldn't get out of her head that strange white lion that she met today. He had a very similar smell to his mother. So familiar and similar to the smell of a dark summer night. The events took place on the Lvov estate. The grandmother was sitting in her office and talking to her son. He was only supposed to arrive tomorrow, and the boy said yes, but he finished things a little faster. Grandma smiled. Did he really want to see his bride so much that he arrived much faster? But the boy was silent and did not say a word. Usually he was indifferent to everything, but now he arrived faster than his escort. Apparently, he still became interested in what kind of bride he had. By the way, Mother quickly put glasses of red wine on the table. She said it was already late. She really wanted to introduce them, so that they can see each other before the wedding. The boy said that he could bring her, but Mother said categorically no. She wanted to do it herself, and now she has already approached the room. Missed the door, but no one responded. Mother thought she should be in the room. She just feels her presence even behind closed doors. Mother quickly opened the door and slowly walked into the room. She saw that the girl was in the form of a bird and was sleeping sweetly. The mother asked the girl if she was really sick. But the bird slept so sweetly that it did not even hear what its mother was saying to it. And Mother realized that the bird was very tired and therefore was sleeping soundly. And Mother quickly shook her hand. She asked her to get up. But the bird just squeaked and turned to the other side. Grandmother said that we need to have dinner. At least eat a spoonful of something. The bird quickly rolled to the side and said that it still wanted to lie down for 10 minutes. The woman was surprised. Nothing can be done. She poked the bird with her finger again. She quickly took it in her hand. The boy was surprised to see a tiny blue bird in front of him. At first he thought it was a ball. The woman said that all animals must eat. So she brought her and sat her on a napkin on the table. The boy looked at the bird in surprise. She turned out to be even smaller than he thought. The sleepy bird swayed from side to side and fell on its back. She continued to sleep soundly. The boy tried to put her on her feet, but she only covered her eyes with her wings. Well, as soon as she opened her eyes, she saw the boy's face in front of her. She quickly jumped on the spot. The bird was very surprised. How did she end up in the dining room? And this is the same boy who fell from the tree. She remembered that she had previously seen his portrait in the estate. Just like the boy with the portrait in the corridor. So she said that most likely you need to introduce yourself. And he said he was Ricardo Chadwick. It turns out that this is the main character after all. And his voice, this is the same boy whom she met during the day. These were terrible memories for the girl. The bird began to look in surprise. first at the boy, then at the mother. What is this happening? Wasn't the main character supposed to arrive tomorrow? Why is he already here mocking her? Mother understood the bird's concern and said that Ricardo arrived faster, so she brought it from the room. And the women asked me if she was very surprised, but the bird only squeaked. She thought she had met a strange beast, but it turns out to be her fiancé. Not at all how she imagined him. Yes, I didn't want to get close to him because I planned to divorce him. But now she left too strong a first impression. Maybe try to play indifference. She quickly started trilling. She stopped looking at the boy. It was as if he wasn't even here. Is she really not interested in her future husband at all? The bird just looked in surprise. After that, she made a sound and tilted her head to the side. Why did he use such a close word? The boy extended his hand. Most likely he wanted her to put her hand on his. But the bird is not in a hurry to do this. She hacked and told him to get his paw, and she quickly put her foot on his hand. But the boy was surprised and only looked at her. He didn't even push her away. The boy guessed that most likely the birds greeted with their paws, and they looked at each other for a few more seconds. At this moment, Mother coughed and took the glasses of her red wine. The woman said most likely she didn't really like him. As I was given by my mother, she understood her perfectly. She didn't want to get close to him at all. Then Mother asked how she liked it, and she asked her daughter-in-law to come to her. It was an honor for her, and the bird quickly ran to her mother. She said it was time for dinner. On the plate in front of the bird were various fruits: blueberries, oranges, strawberries. The bird ate its fill and could no longer move, and sometimes it became scary from Ricardo's gaze during dinner. But what's wrong with him? Did he really like her image of the bluebird? He's definitely prettier. And the bird, without taking its eyes off, looked at the boy. The boy laughed and asked her not to look at him with such a scorching gaze. Her gaze made the boy feel downright uncomfortable, and the bird quickly turned away from him. The bird was surprised at what a pretender this boy was. He thought for a while. The boy told her to take responsibility, and he called her little wife. And you, with her penetrating gaze, he may die. The bird was stunned. You looked at him with a surprised look. Her son will not leave her even bones. He sat at the bird and looked with such curiosity. At that moment, the bird jumped up and hit on its mother's shoulder. Mom realized that the bird was scared. I told my son, even though he liked her very much, I need to joke like that. The boy just chuckled. Mother quickly covered the bird with her hand. She sat her down on the table and stroked her head with her finger. Coyle asked if the birds liked their dinner. After that, she said that the bird could go and rest. After all, she must be very tired today. Mother wished the bird good night. The bird looked at the boy in surprise. The boy was in no hurry to go anywhere. Most likely only she can leave now. But then Mother said that she and the boys too. Now everyone needs to go to sleep and rest. And the mother turned to the boy and called him baby. And this boy was very upset. After all, he already considered himself an adult for a long time. Mother asked if he could see his bride off. She asked her son to help the bird get to her room, and they walked down the corridor together. As they walked, the boy said, "Well, the bird has a very interesting ability." The boy asked if all birds had it. The bird squeaked and said that this was unique to bluebirds. She was ready to answer his questions, but did not want to get close to him at all. But the boy did not understand at all what she was talking about. According to the original, Ricciardo really didn't like chatterboxes, so the bird didn't commit that it wouldn't tell anyone about its ability to anyone it didn't need. She hoped that he would understand that it was a secret. Suddenly, the boy turned around and said that he had completely forgotten. The bird wanted him to quickly say what he wanted because she was already very tired of him. She repeated once again that she did not want to get close to him. The boy quickly tied a blue scarf for the bird. The bird looked and wondered if it was her new blue handkerchief. And then she remembered the basket of laundry that she had left under that tree when they first met. Was Ricardo looking after her? At this time, the boy was already opening the door to the bird's room. He asked if she wouldn't thank him. The bird wanted to thank him, but since she was in the form of a bluebird, she could not do this. And also, she could not handle a person without clothes. The boy said that she is a very inhuman wife. He offends such a sincere future husband. After that, he wished him pleasant dreams and closed the door. And the bird with a blue scarf on its head continued to sit near the door. And what sincerity he spoke. Is this really about helping with the basket? This is another trick from this deceiver. The boy quickly walked down the corridor away. That he is even his problem. And the boy remembered one story that happened 3 years ago alone. One blue nameless bird took care of him when he was bleeding to death as a cat. And after that day, the mark on his hand began to radiate the energy of the bluebird. The energy on the mark means that he has become part of a contact that he was not aware of. But there was a lot of time now, and he was ready to find out about it later. For now, he will just look after her. At the same time, he will repay the debt. The next morning came, and the bluebird, in the form of a girl, was already sitting in bed. Something caught her attention. There was a basket of laundry near the door. The girl just gasped in surprise. There was a note on top of the things. The girl thought most likely it was Ricardo who brought her the washed clothes. She was surprised that he brought this laundry directly to her room, and the girl went to the laundry basket and sat down next to it. The only thing she didn't understand was why. Well, the girl turned her gaze to the note. What else is this? The girl quickly took the note in her hand and began to read. The note said that someone's hands were very tired while he reported this. Is he really asking for compensation? The girl quickly threw the note back. She decided that she would act as if she had not seen the note at all. After some time, it was time for the wedding ceremony. The bluebird stood and looked in the mirror. She was simply fascinated by her beauty. She was wearing a snow-white dress with embroidery somewhere. There were gloves on his hands. Her hair was styled in a braid and decorated with fresh flowers. The girl spun around in front of the mirror again. Her dress was perfect. She gave the maids a chance to ruin it, but it is still perfect. When the girl put on her shoes, they came at the right time. I thought about it, and the shoes fit well. At this time, someone knocked on the door. A mother and her son stood on the threshold. The one who will be her fiancé today. The girl looked at this couple in surprise and thought what kind of jeans these are. She came over and complimented her mom. Mother looked incredible today. At one time, the mother also told the girl that she looked great. At that moment, the groom approached her and asked, looking at the girl's hair, "Are her flowers fresh?" The girl said that she took one flower alive from her hair and offered to take it to the groom. Well, the boy refused and said that this hairstyle just suits her very much, and fresh flowers are very harmonious. But still, the girl insisted that the young man take the flower. She wanted this flower to be his boutonniere. Without thinking twice, the boy took the flower. He quickly put it in his pocket. After that, he looked carefully at his bride. It turned out that it was time for them to go. The girl was very excited. After all, a wedding is once in a lifetime, and she was very worried about this. But Mother came up to the bluebird and said that it was time for them to go to the ceremony. When they were already approaching the room where the ceremony would take place, everyone whispered enthusiastically that the bride and groom were coming. Everyone in the area stood and applauded them. The girl and her fiancé walked slowly along the white path. The bluebird didn't believe it. It was surprising, but she really is getting married. She was so worried that now all her feathers stood on end. Suddenly, the young man commanded her to give him her hand. The girl was confused at first and did not understand what he wanted from her, and the boy extended his hand to her and told her to hold his hand. And for the first time, he called her his wife. The bluebird was in no hurry to take the boy's hand. She asked why she should do this, and ours said that this way she could carry it out. And he says these words so simply that it was a little surprising. Without thinking twice, the girl finally decided to take her future husband's hand. She reached out her hand and took the boy's hand. His hand turned out to be very warm. As soon as the girl took his hand, all the worries she had just experienced disappeared. She was no longer afraid. It turns out that holding another person's hand can give you a sense of security. They approached the altar where their mother stood. Mother said that today is the day when the relationship between these two people will not be officially announced. May their union be blessed. And if anyone has any objections, and Mother said that they would be punished. At this time, everyone who wanted to say anything fell silent. Nobody wanted to be punished. At that moment, the mother gently hugged her daughter-in-law by the shoulder. The girl was holding a glass in front of her at this time. Mother bent down and told the girl in the ear to believe that all these people were at her feet. After all, today she has become part of the Chadwick family. The girl understood that her mother seemed to be encouraging her, and at that moment, the mother pushed her son. The boy immediately realized that now it was apparently his turn. He took the wedding ring in his hands and walked closer to the princess. He gently took her hand right into the princess's eyes. On the finger was a ring decorated with a diamond. The ring suited her perfectly. It was the perfect size. She also took a ring to put on her husband's hand. The bluebird was filled with some strange feelings. She is now Sufina Chadwick. Suddenly, the enthusiastic clinking of glasses was heard. Everyone greeted the young people and raised the first growth in their happy life. Its truth was simple. After the ceremony, there is a waltz left and you can send everyone home. And the girl sipped her glass of drink. She learned that etiquette is to drink only half. She quickly took half of it away and put the glass on the table. At this time, one of the maids came up and said that she would clean up. It was the same one of the maids she was scolding. Apparently, she also helped the girl with the wedding. The girl was a little afraid of her. After all, the maid was offended by her and suddenly she would arrange something at the ceremony. At this time, the maid stumbled. and she was ready to throw the glasses onto the girl's dress. Well, the bluebird knew so, and assumed that there would be something that would lead to a scandal, but she was determined that she would not allow the maid to come close to her. And the girl decided that she would use her ability quite a bit so that others wouldn't notice. The maid was very surprised. For some reason, the liquid from the glass flowed not onto the bride, but onto her. The maid did not understand why the glasses fell in the opposite direction from where she fell, and then the glasses fell to the floor and broke. Suddenly, another maid ran up to the girl and said that she was very sorry. She asked that the girl was not injured because of the drink or the glass. The racing girl quickly sat down and said that she wanted to inspect it. The girl noticed that today the maids are behaving especially politely, and she saw that now all eyes were focused on her. And the bluebirds need to be told that she is fine. Is it really going to encourage the person who wanted to talk to her about the drink? Well, the girl dialed and said everything was fine. And she thanked the maids for already working harder than her. At that moment, the girl suspected that the maid was holding something in her hands. The bluebird decided that she needed to somehow quietly get a little closer and look. Sophia extended her hand to the maid, but the maid said that they had to go and quickly hid her hands behind her back. The bluebird did not understand what it was, and she really didn't like it. She noticed that these three maids always stayed together, but now there were only two of them. Where the third one is anyone's guess. At this time, the husband was watching his wife from afar. He saw that she was busy with something. He was very interested in what, but he did not dare to come closer and ask about it. The girl began to look around. The third maid couldn't just disappear like that. Most likely she was up to something. Having looked around a little, the girl saw that the maid was sitting not far from the guests with a basket. She was sitting all the way back, and the bride could not see what was in her basket. The husband stood and carefully watched his wife. He didn't take his eyes off her. After all, now it is his duty to protect and take care of his wife. The boy turned to his wife and said that if she asks for help, he will definitely help her. He was ready to do anything for her. The girl looked at him in surprise. She didn't understand whether he was saying this to her now or to someone else. But there was no one else in the area except her. She thanked her husband for his willingness to help. But so far, everything is fine with her. And even if something happened to her, it's only her business. Suddenly, the bluebird heard a strange sound, and she looked around. A rustling sound came closer and closer to her. The bluebird saw that a snake was crawling not far from it. She slowly got closer and closer, and the bluebird immediately remembered how once a young man came up to his mother and said that a snake that was not caught said that it was hungry. Is this really the same snake? Where did the snake come from here? Or is it such a delicacy? Well, I forgot the reptile at the wedding, or it was someone present who gave the young couple a gift. The girl noticed that the snake was creeping closer and closer to her. She quickly shouted that she should not come closer. But the snake did not pay any attention to her cry. The snake had already raised its head and was ready to rush at Sophia. The snake's actions could not be predicted, but the bluebird had no doubt that it was dangerous. She realized that it was a poisonous snake, and now the bluebird is in danger. The bluebird began to calm itself down and was endowed with a special ability, and the girl was sure that she would definitely be able to escape from her. My head has already been raised high. She opened her mouth from which 2 teeth were visible, and she began. For a moment, Sophina closed her eyes. Now she was very, very scared. Snakes are the sworn enemies of birds, and the bride extended her hand to the snake, as if protecting herself. Without expecting it, she plucked up courage and tried to catch her. The bluebird had to protect itself. She grabbed the snake by the neck. At that moment, the husband approached them. The young man held his sharp sword at all times. The bluebird was surprised. Did she grab it? And the young man smiled and said that it looked very funny. He stood and smiled, although he continued to hold his sword at the ready, that they need to do something to prevent the snake from biting any of them. But at that moment, people appeared in front of the snake's eyes. She asked Sophia to spare her life. She won't be like this anymore. The snake also asked the lion to put away his sword. The girl was stunned. Is it possible that a snake can transmit its speech mentally? Only the highest animals can do this. The snake said that her shoes simply smelled delicious. The snake only wanted to eat, nothing more. She didn't want to hurt anyone. Now the girl realized that the snake's target was her shoes. I asked for forgiveness again. She said she was wrong. She said that she doesn't even know how to transform into a person. And the snake asked if Sophina would kill her. After all, she is only 7 years old. The bride and groom stood and looked at this snake. But at that moment, the bride laughed loudly. She wished the snake well and let it go. This was most likely the maid's plan. They specially smeared the bride's shoes with something tasty. and they released the hungry snake, in the hope that she will interfere with the first dance and bite the bluebird. But the girl quickly figured out their plan.
At this moment, the snake began to quickly turn its head, as if she sensed some kind of danger approaching her. And at that moment, Safina saw that her mother was not far from her. She screamed and ran towards her mother. But as soon as she came closer to her mother, she noticed that the snake had lost consciousness. And mother, looking at her daughter-in-law, laughed and said that she had excellent hunting skills. And she stroked her daughter-in-law on the head. She asked to leave this snake to her, and she knows what to do with it. Everyone was surprised. Did Bluebird just catch a snake? Aren't snakes the sworn enemies of birds? She turned out to be quite brave for a bird, yes, and immediately reported to the head of the family. And it was amazing. She stood and was surprised that the lions were complimenting her, although everything turned out completely by accident with this snake. But still the girls were very nice. She kept thinking about where this snake even came from. She couldn't just smell the shoes crawling somewhere in the forest. This question haunted the girl. But she decided that she just needed to forget about it. After all, her husband had already appeared in front of her. And this means that it is time for their first wedding there. The boy came up and gallantly extended his hand to her. That's right, the first dance remains. And she completely forgot about it. Sophia was very worried. After all, she had very little time to learn the rules of the waltz, and she was tormented by doubts whether she could cope. Her husband came up and asked if she would take his hand, and they quickly joined hands. They clasped their hands tightly, the fingers intertwined with each other. And the girl put her hand on her husband's shoulder, and he grabbed her around the waist. Everyone around froze and watched the couple. And so the musicians started playing calm music, and the bride and groom began to waltz. The husband was very, very close to the girl's face. She looked into his eyes and seemed to feel awkward. Her husband had very beautiful blue eyes. They were so beautiful that it was impossible to take your eyes off. At that moment, the boy bent down and told his wife to hold him tighter. She looked into his eyes again and grabbed his shoulder tighter. The couple danced very beautifully. Without proper training, it was impossible to say that they could not dance. They looked harmonious not only in dance, but also with each other, a blonde young man and a fragile girl with blue hair. And then the girl remembered that now there will be the part where she constantly made mistakes during rehearsal. She tried to step back a little, but when she took a step forward, she stepped on her husband's foot. Sophia quickly apologized to her husband, and then I thought, is he really going to say that she broke his leg? This young man was still a pretender. But to her surprise, the boy said nothing. He reassured the girl that no one even noticed anything. But Safina was very surprised by his answer. Has he really changed? And the boy repeated that he didn't think anything serious was wrong with the new one, because she stepped on it. To make his leg hurt, he had to step a little harder, and it was the husband who gave his wife this advice. Safina didn't understand whether he really cared about her so much now. Is it possible that now he will think not only about himself, but also about her? And at that moment, her Nasha said that it was his fault that she stepped on his foot. They needed to properly prepare for the wedding waltz. And the boy asked how her leg felt. After all, it was the bride's leg that could possibly have suffered from such a mistake. And something could happen to her. Safina smiled and said that she was fine. It really doesn't hurt her at all. She didn't understand how the young man could understand this, that not only was it painful for him, but she was a little hurt, and her husband was smart beyond his years. While dancing, the girl thought that the end of the first part was about to happen, and the second one will begin immediately. The second part will begin after the bow, when the music stops playing. And now this moment has come. The musicians stopped playing music. Sophia held the dress with one hand, and with the other she touched her chest and bowed. Well, she caught her foot again and almost fell. At this time, her husband came up to her and caught her, preventing her from falling. If she fell, she would be in some kind of awkward position. And so her husband saved her. She smiled and thanked him for this. At that moment, the boy asked if he could hug her tighter. Sophia was dumbfounded by this question. Well, the boy explained, since she is his partner, even if she doesn't dance, well, you still need to dance. Hearing these words, the girl laughed loudly. They clasped their hands again, and the boy asked the girl for forgiveness. Their hands were closed so tightly that it hurt a little. Safina understood that now. Even as a boy, he is very strong, and when he grows up, he will become even stronger. She believed that he would become a reliable support for her and would protect her. The young man looked into her eyes that she couldn't concentrate at all while dancing. The girl protested. She believed that this was completely wrong. The young man looked carefully with his blue eyes straight into the girl's eyes. But she couldn't stand this look and turned away. It was very difficult for her to withstand his gaze so close. Finally, the music ended and Sophia sighed with relief. She bowed to her beau as a sign of thanks for the dance. She was glad that the first dance ended well. They danced normally and did not arouse suspicion among the others. And she once again looked into the blue and bottomless eyes of her husband. She remembered how he helped bring her a basket of laundry and leave it in her room. And even when her legs got tangled, he grabbed and supported her. Ricardo constantly helps her. And then the girl decided that he still treated her normally. This means they will be able to communicate normally. Everything will not be the same as it was in the original novel, and she will try to do it too. And now they were standing next to each other. The guests looked at them and applauded. Mother also stood not far from the young people and was glad that everything ended well. After all, everyone knew how important it was for the first dance to go well. At this moment, Mother wondered what she should do with the snake now. After all, she is from the border zone and cannot turn into a person. She thought of sending her home immediately after the wedding. And Mother drew attention to the basket, where a snake lay under white fabric. But she's still a child, and for her poisonous fangs to return in a day can only be accomplished by a higher beast. Only the leader's daughter can do this. Mother replayed what happened in her head. After all, it was the Sufina who released the snake into the side, and if the snake had bitten the daughter-in-law, a strong scandal would have erupted. And Mother guessed that this was the work of those maids. She realized that it was in vain that she had appointed them for Sufina. She just wanted the maids to help her get used to life here faster, but this was Mother's miscalculation. But still, the daughter-in-law showed herself well, since she was able to catch the snake and prevent a scandal, but most likely it brought her experience. And Mother decided to talk to her daughter-in-law about this tomorrow. How she didn't want to ruin today's holiday. Sufina looked joyful and happy on this day. Mother noticed that she was smiling today. That was incredible. Baby was sure that her instincts were right, and she chose an excellent daughter-in-law and wife for her son. At this moment, the guests began to congratulate the young man. The first to approach was a man with a beard. What was not clear was that the man was only congratulating Ricciardo. All congratulations were sent only for him. Safina smiled. It's as if she's not even here. Is he really underestimating her? She already lived for 13 years under the yoke of her brothers and sisters. She's already used to it. Ricardo thanked Mr. for the congratulations. The man handed Ricardo a bottle of wine. He said that this wine is very valuable and tasty. It comes from his winery, and he handed the bottle of wine to Sophia. The girl took the bottle and thanked the gentleman. She, in turn, took small bags and handed them to the man who congratulated her. She said it was a small return gift from the bride and groom. These were herb cookies. The man began to think. He would like to receive a gift from the young master, but this bluebird is constantly getting in the way. The girl thought how stubborn this gentleman is. Is he really going to continue to behave like this? The girl said that he should still try the cookies. She chose this dessert especially for him. Purple cookies are made from herbs that improve vision. And the girl said that he was only the groom at her wedding. But his wife did not see the little bluebird at all. The man realized his mistakes and fell silent. And the girl continued to talk, that she's very worried about the man. Will this cookie help him to see? The man was dumbfounded. How dare she say that to him? The girl continued. She took a few more bags of cookies. She gave all these bags to the man so that he could completely improve his vision. She said that she hoped that he would eat everything, and next time he would see her around too. The guests began to whisper. They didn't understand what was happening there now. Is this man really quarreling with his fiancée now? The head of the family said she doesn't make scandals, but here it is. The man stamped the cookie and quickly began to chew it. He quickly turned around and walked away without saying a word. Safina wished the man to take care of himself. She was pleased with herself. She managed to deal with this man. At that time, Ricardo watched his wife closely. He didn't expect her to be like this. They continued to stand near the table and accept gifts. The bluebird noticed that everyone was already going to go home. Apparently, this is the end of the ceremony. Well, not far from her, she saw those 3 maids who did not like her. It was they who used the poisonous snake against her. Almost spilled juice on her. Then they did something to her shoes so that it would attract the snake specifically to her. Everything was very thought out. Therefore, the girl decided that she needed to keep a close eye on them. And she walked towards them. At that moment, Ricardo went after her. As she walked away, the girl heard someone walking behind her. She turned and asked Ricardo why he was following her. The young man said that he was just looking after her. He is worried that nothing will happen to his wife. But the girl didn't understand why. Or is this some kind of entertainment for him? If she had really been bitten by a snake, she would have died. And now she understands why Ricardo is watching her so closely. Ricardo really looked at his wife carefully. He looked with some kind of questioning look. She told him to do as he wanted. The maids stood and discussed that they certainly caused a commotion to the snake today. One of the maids looked in surprise. She didn't know at all that the snake was poisonous. She's still quite small. Another maid asked her not to worry because they didn't leave any evidence. And the snake still doesn't know how to turn into a person, so he won't tell anyone anything. I asked maybe they should admit and apologize for everything. After all, they did very badly. What if my fiancé actually bit me? She might even die. Another maid said that she had gone crazy. If they talk about what they did, they will definitely be in trouble. And if they remain silent, they will definitely not get caught. And at that moment they saw the bride and groom approaching them. But they didn't see that the young man and the girl were heading in their direction. Another maid suggested that they pretend they didn't see them. One of the maids loudly clapped her hands as if she remembered something. She said she completely forgot about cleaning the outbuilding, and she said that she needed to go there as quickly as possible. And the maids walked away. The maid who wanted to tell the truth also ran after the maids. Safina was upset. They haven't even started a conversation and the maids are already running away. Safina was not going to leave it like that. She shouted stop and quickly chased after the maids. She asked them to stop, but they continued to run away. The maids were very fast. The girl was running after them when suddenly she got very tired and stopped. At this time the maids turned around and asked if it was them who was calling. She asked if they were running away from her now. One, if she already said so, that they did not hear at all that she was calling them. Safina thought about it. They tried to somehow justify themselves to her. They ran away because they were definitely guilty. Safina said that she had one small request for them. The girl asked if they had seen that snake. The maids' faces became very confused. Safina read it all before their eyes. She didn't even need to say anything else. She just mentioned the snake, and the maids themselves gave it all away with their faces. The girl said that she was very scared of the snake today. That's why she wants to drink cocoa. The maids said that they would soon make cocoa for her and bring it to her. Well, wasn't it surprising? This is the territory of Lviv, so where did the snake come from here? There were many questions that Safina could not find an answer to. And what was surprising was that the maids did not even try to hide their involvement in this. Suddenly, Safina noticed the maid's pocket. It bulged out, and it was clear that there was something in it. Are these really such important things that he carries it with him while working? It was very strange for Safina, but she felt that it was somehow connected with her. Now the bluebird's intuition was telling her, which never let her down. The maid quickly bowed and said that they knew absolutely nothing, and these were snakes. They have a lot of things to do, and if the lady doesn't mind, then they will go do them. Safina realized that the maids had decided to run away again, but they don't know one thing, and she threw up the bag, which sparkled. One thing the maids didn't know was that her ability, telekinesis, was precisely created for such situations. Using the ability went very smoothly. And now the bag that was in the maid's pocket was now in Safina's hand, but the girl didn't understand why she needed it. You opened the bag and poured a little onto your hand. The girl saw that it was the powder that was in the maid's hands. Having blown a little, she realized that this was the bark of the Kali dog tree, and it is very attractive to snakes. At that moment, Ricardo approached the girl and looked out from behind her. Hearing that there was someone behind her, the girl shuddered. He scared her. After all, he was very close and she could directly hear his breathing. She did not notice at all that he had come so close, since at that moment she was focused on the maids. She tried to retreat, to not be so close to Ricciardo. But at that moment her leg twisted and the girl could not resist. She collapsed to the ground. After the dance, her leg began to hurt very much, and now she didn't feel any strength at all. The girls immediately ran up to Ricardo and took her hand. He was again very close to her, and the girl began to feel awkward at such moments. She thanked the boy and said that she could get up herself. Ricardo noticed that this was after she stepped on him. She felt incredibly ashamed. She needs to try and stand up normally. It's as if nothing hurts her at all. But Ricardo asked her not to strain herself. He sat down and told the girls to climb on his back. Safina looked straight at him in surprise. And the boy looked into her eyes in surprise. After thinking a little, Athena decided that there was no other way out. It's getting dark outside, and she somehow needs to get to the estate. When the boy looked at the new one with Athena, he noticed that her ankle was swollen and red. He once again asked her to sit on his back. The girl was very embarrassed by Ricardo's constant presence. He doesn't have to help her that much. Ricardo said if for some reason she doesn't want to climb on his back, then he can easily carry her in his arms. He is very strong and everything will be fine. But Safina knew that it was much easier to carry a person on your back, and she climbed onto the boy's back. She grabbed his neck with her hands. The girl leaned her head against him and thought, it turns out that you can rely on him. He's not so bad anymore. And then she remembered the incident that happened near the tree, when she used her powers to summon a wind that shook the tree, and at that time Ricciardo fell off him. He said he almost got hurt. At the first meeting he seemed very strange to her, and now the attitude towards him from Athens has changed a little, and she remembered the moment when he extended his hand to her to perform the first dance. Now the girl realized that they could normally exist side by side. It would probably be completely nice if they became friends in the future. The boy continued to carry Safina around the garden. They were getting closer and closer to the estate. Today on her back, Sophia was thinking, there is nothing wrong with that if they are friends with him. They got married and now they will always be together. Therefore, it will be much more enjoyable if they can spend quality time with each other. This will happen until the main character appears, and then they will get divorced. And the girl thought that she would not move away from him. She will try with all her might to live amicably with him. And now they have already entered the estate. Safina asked Ricardo if it was heavy. The boy said yes, it is very heavy. The thought flashed through the girl's head. Maybe she could hit him hard. She is already behind him. She might be given a choke blow. But the boy was very cute, and she changed her mind about doing it. She looked at his face from behind and realized that he was incredibly handsome. She didn't know that he could smile so beautifully. She likes everything about him now. And she decided to make friends with him. At this moment the young man stopped, and Safina asked him if he wanted to become friends with her, but the boy didn't want it. She was surprised. Why doesn't he want to be friends? She mustered up all the courage to ask this. It was a shame even that he said it somehow sharply and loudly. But now that he thought about it, he might have been confused by what she was suggesting so suddenly. Safina asked if she could find out why he didn't want to be friends with her. But the boy was silent. He was very arrogant. This is the main sign of the main character. Still, she realized that she had made a mistake and was in a hurry. And now they have already approached one of the rooms. At this moment, the girl came to her senses, because her room was on the other side. The boy said that they should come here. He also added that spouses should sleep in the same room, and he quickly pulled the handle. When they entered the room, Athena was very surprised. It was simply gorgeous here, a huge number of toys. The girl didn't understand when he managed to prepare everything. Sophia sat down on the bed and continued to look around the room. At this time, her husband brought a first aid kit. He asked her to extend her leg to him. After all, the wound needs to be disinfected. He asked if she didn't want to treat her wound. He took some kind of healing cream and applied it to her ankle. The girl twitched her leg a little. She was in pain. One of the features of Leo is the improvement of their body. They push their physical abilities to the limit. She heard that if you use force often, you can get hurt. Therefore, it is a common thing for him to treat. After performing some manipulations, the boy said that everything was ready, and Safina thanked him for the treatment. She owed so much to Ricardo. She looked at her bandaged leg. If you remember, Roman, then Ricardo did not rush so kindly to the siphon, and in general, there was some kind of awkward relationship between them. But now Ricciardo is showing increased guardianship. He behaves very politely and even makes fun of her. He is also very attentive to the girl. But why does he treat the bird he just met so well? And his behavior is suspicious, as if he knows everything in advance. Basically, all the protagonists of a romantic fantasy will be walking encyclopedias. It would be clearer if she thought of him like that. In any case, he did a lot for Safina, so she needs to try to thank him a little later, and she smiled happily. And you are tired of her smiles, a little awkward. He watched her carefully. He had such sincere eyes. At that moment, the maid came into the room and said that she had brought coffee for Lady Safina. Ricardo walked over and took the coffee to serve to his wife. He brought a plate of coffee and placed it in front of his wife. When she lifted the cup, she saw that some kind of leaf was glued to the cup. She opened it and hurried to read it. It was a message from the maid. She wrote that she was truly sorry. It was the maid who came up with all this. Still, it would not be worth it for the Sufi to find out what their plan was. At that moment, Ricardo said that he would go to the bathroom. From surprise, Safina almost choked on her coffee. She watched carefully and followed Ricardo with her gaze. Why is he going there? Her face was excited and surprised. Perhaps she was a little scared. Well, the boy went into the bathroom and loudly closed the door behind him. There was only one left in the room. She didn't understand what to expect now. She quickly drank the remaining coffee in her cup. She quickly placed her bandaged foot on the floor. Will she be able to walk now? He didn't mean anything when he said he was going to the bath. She quickly put the cup on the nightstand. Yes, even if in the novel they are already adults, but here they are still very small. Besides, they only met yesterday, and he refused to be friends. And the girl climbed under the blanket and lay in thought. She didn't want to sleep at all. She was very worried about this. And then Ricardo came out of the bathrooms, dressed in pajamas. The girl quickly looked at him and realized that these were not the pajamas she had imagined. Ricardo came up and grabbed his head. He asked her why she was lying like that. At this question, the girl jumped and sat down on the bed. She was very surprised and did not know what to do now. The first thing that came to her mind was to also go to the bath for a swim. She said that cleanliness is very important and quickly ran to the bathroom. Entering the bath, she stopped at the threshold and sat down behind the closed door. And what frequency did she speak? What did she even say? Well, that's the first thing that came to her mind. She seems to be constantly saying something strange to Ricardo. Will they be able to become friends like that? And the girl decided that since she had already come to the bath, she needed to wash herself. Taking off the wedding dress was such a hassle. Well, what to do with the bandage on your leg? And so she plunged into a warm bubble bath. She immediately felt calm and at ease in her soul. It was as if all the fatigue had completely gone away. Today was a very difficult day for her. A lot of strange and incomprehensible things happened. And she remembered how the maid wanted to pour glasses of drink on her. How she used her powers to take the bag from the maid's apron. How she gave all the cookies to the guys who congratulated them and didn't notice her. And also her meeting with the snake. The most enjoyable thing about this day was their first dance with Ricardo. She was glad that the wedding ended well, only she spent time in the bathroom. The girl didn't know. Well, she decided that it was time for her to go out. She tried to grab the side of the bathroom but couldn't. Her strength was completely exhausted. She could no longer maintain her human form. And now the little bird was drowning in the middle of the bathroom. She drank her complaints and couldn't get out. Because of the foam, she could not take off. Both her wings and plumage became wet. She continued to squeak, but no one heard her. Sophia thought she can't die like this while taking a bath. Well, it has already completely gone under the water. All that remains is to look out the wing. With the last of her strength, she surfaced. And she started screaming for someone to help her. Ricardo ran to the door and asked if she was okay, but she continued to beep. The young man asked if he could come into the room now. The bird prayed that he would come in and save her as soon as possible. When he came in, he saw a drowning bird and asked what she was doing. And now he already understood everything. He picked her up and pulled her out of the bath. Reka rather asked the girl to be careful. And he wrapped her in a snow-white towel. He brought it into the room and laid it in front of him. The bird thought how hard it is to be little. The boy asked her why she transformed into the form of a bird. But all the bird could say was to squeak. She quickly got out of the towel and ran across the floor. She's having fun because she's not little anymore, but she can't tell Ricardo that she couldn't maintain her human form because of fatigue. How ashamed she was at that moment. After some time, she managed to return to human form. She put on a robe and was ready to sleep. You will have to try not to change shape so dramatically anymore. The girl came up and looked in the mirror. She thought the pajamas were very cute, and she decided that it was time to go to bed. But if you think about it, they have one bed, and the girl got upset again. Why did she even return to human form? Well, it will be even stranger if she returns to the room in the form of a bird. And she quickly looked out from behind the door. She was interested to see what 3-Card was doing at that moment. 3-Card sat in bed and read some book. The girl came and sat down on the very edge of the bed. She glanced furtively at Ricardo, but he didn't care and didn't even watch her. After a while, the cards asked the girl what she was doing, and he slammed the book loudly. The girl laughed all over and said that she was now getting ready for bed. The boy did not understand why she was getting ready to sleep there. The girl asked if it wouldn't be strange that they would sleep together. The boy asked why it would look strange. He said everything was fine. She knew Ricardo from the book, so she was very worried. Suddenly, he thinks of something strange. For example, holding hands. As a girl, I imagined that he was inviting her to sleep holding hands. She quickly drove these thoughts away from herself and shouted that she would not give him her hands. She thought about it, and she didn't understand how she said it out loud. After that, she quickly closed her eyes. Opening her eyes a little, she looked at what Ricardo was doing. The boy asked if she really meant that if the spouses held hands and shared the same bed, they would have children. The girl became even more surprised. Or everyone said they wouldn't hold hands, they will just sleep, and he patted the sheet next to him and said that it was time for them to sleep on a comfortable bed. The boy was shocked. Does she still believe that this is how children are born? It was even cute. He thought that they would have a normal relationship and he would be able to find out more about the contract. I just don't remember what contract he wanted to find out about. The boys myself don't remember. He decided that for now he would just try to calm her down. Ricardo got out of bed and went to one of the toys. He picked up a huge giraffe and brought it to bed. He placed the giraffe near the Safina. This toy seemed to separate Ricardo from Sophia, and she felt a little more comfortable. He just created a boundary between them. She was very worried because in the novel he was completely different. Well, his actions are worthy. After that, he quickly turned off the light. The girl noted that she really felt calmer this way. After looking at the giraffe a few more times, she completely calmed down. And then she heard that the boy had already begun to sing. Most likely, he has already fallen asleep. She quickly stood up and looked out from behind the giraffe. Is he really already asleep? Now she has become completely calm. She survived this day, her wedding day. She is now officially part of the Chadwick family. She's Safina Chadwick. Now she realizes it's true. And now the morning has come. The girl woke up and sweetly reached for the bed. She slept so well today. At that moment, she looked back and realized that she had taken the entire blanket on herself. Ricardo was not nearby. The giraffe was also lying on the floor. Apparently, she took it off while she was sleeping. Did Ricardo really run away from the room because of her behavior in the dream? Although on the whole, it was even better than waking up together in the morning. It's good that there were no surprises that night. It would be kind of awkward to see him when you open your eyes. At this time, Mother's voice was heard behind the doors. She asked if her daughter-in-law had woken up. The girl was very surprised and jumped out of bed. And now they were sitting in the living room opposite each other. Mother asked the girl if she slept well. The girl smiled and said that everything was fine. After that, she turned her attention to her mother's hands. She saw that her hands were all scratched, and the girl asked her mother if she had really gotten hurt. Mother said that there was nothing serious, and she continued drinking her coffee. Mother thought, judging by her behavior at night, nothing special happened. And it's good that mother provided supervision for the maids so that they wouldn't come up with any surprises again. Perhaps someone else is connected to this case, and she herself was able to find evidence that they were connected with the snake. Mother thought that if her daughter-in-law found out about this, she might be upset. If she realizes that someone wanted to attack her on purpose, therefore, she needs to watch her words. And mother asked her daughter-in-law if she was scared after yesterday. Does she really mean that incident about the snake? Well, Sophia quickly smiled and said that everything was fine. Mother should have looked after her better, so it's all her fault. I didn't expect my mother to blame herself. The girl said she was fine. And so the girl asked her mother, who exactly is this snake? She can, and Safina, send her thoughts telepathically. This is the youngest son from a family of snake leaders. Safina was very surprised. Mother said that there is now turmoil within the snake family, so he escaped from there. Sophia repeated her mother's words once again. There is turmoil within the snake family. The youngest son ran away. And is this all true? Mother said they are still investigating the matter. Therefore, a little more and they will learn more information. And Sophia asked what she would do about it then. Mother said that for now this snake would live with them. Sophia asked her mother if she knew the name of the snake, if this is the character she's thinking about. And mother quickly interrupted her. She said the snake's name was Canis Black. Safina knew so. This is Canis Black, assistant to the main character and a brilliant scientist. He is also the youngest son of the snake family. He always helped the main character with his wisdom, and he was a very important minor character. Canis was also an excellent inventor, so he created many useful items. But what does it mean? If Safina cooperates with him, she will simply be swimming in gold. She will get rich very quickly. If you think about it, that's pretty good. She will still need money to live after the divorce. Mother looking at the girl, she thought. She wondered what she was thinking about now, and she asked the girl why she asked the name of this snake. Safina laughed and said that it was just like that. She can't tell her mother about this yet. The girl asked if mother found out why the snake was at the reception. Mother looked at the girl suspiciously. She asked her if she really knew something. Sophia said that she suspects someone. Therefore, mother can entrust this matter to her. She will be able to find out as quickly as possible who exactly planted the snake at the celebration. Safina thought that this would even benefit her. There was no way she could miss this chance. Of course, if my mother allows it. Mother said good, and Safina said that it was all just great. She didn't expect it to happen like this. Wow, now she can stop talking about the maids, and Safina will find out about everything herself. Mother put the cup on the table and said that she specially collected them for her, and Mother handed the girls a piece of paper on which there were berries. Safina gasped in surprise. She loved raspberries very much. Was my mother really injured because she was picking raspberries? Safina said thank you very much to her mother for such a delicacy. She asked if mother really picked berries herself, berry by berry. But mother did not say anything in response. She quickly stood up and said that it was time for her to go. The girl began to call her mother. She wanted to say something else. Apparently, she really picked these berries herself. The girl once again carefully looked at the leaf on which the berries lay. Sophia was happy that she received permission from her mother. Now she knew that the matter would end successfully, and so she sat in her room with a snake lying next to her on the carpet. The girl cheerfully greeted Snake and waved her hand. But the snake was a little upset. After all, she had a muzzle on her face. She seemed offended, but someone also came up with these security measures, and they had to be fulfilled. The girl told one of the maids that with mother's permission, she can move the snake to her room. The maid agreed. She herself asked to bring the snake here. The snake looked pitifully at the girl. She asked her to do something with this muzzle. After all, people don't do that. The girl smiled and said that she had no guarantees that she would not bite her. The snake was surprised. Would she really do that in the lion's den? Especially when the girl is the daughter-in-law of the family. After thinking a little, Sophia decided that he was right. The snake asked she was only 7 years old. How can you treat her so cruelly? Tears appeared in her eyes. Safina realized that the snake was simply trying to play on her feelings so that she would fall for it. And at that moment, the snake swore that it would not bite the girl in the name of its family. She asked if the girl could use her strange powers again. That was her then. The girl was surprised by this interest. Telekinesis is invisible to the naked eye, so it will be difficult to find out who exactly used the ability. She wanted to keep her ability a secret, so she avoided the question. The girl did not understand what the snake meant, but she agreed to free it. I understood that the girl wants to keep her abilities a secret, and she said that he didn't see anything. He will keep her secret so the girl can quickly remove the collar from him. And the girl quickly took the collar off the snake's face. Freed from the muzzle, she smiled cheerfully. The girl said that her name is Sufina. The snake was surprised. Is it possible that now the predator and the prey will already say hello? The girl asked if she really wanted her to put on the muzzle again without me. The snake smiled and said what his name was. They were both glad to meet each other. The girl turned to Canis. She had a question. Will he be able to answer her honestly? The snake wondered if the Sufin really needed him, but his information is very expensive, and the snake propped up its chin with its tail. The snakes really were calculating. Yes, because the originals had a difficult character. The girl knew that he would not want to talk so easily. But there's nothing to be done. Size asked what happened. I asked the girl to explain to him. Maybe he could help with something. The girl knew that he would be curious, and she decided to give him a little hint. Her hand went up to the pouch, but she quickly withdrew her hand. After thinking a little, she told the snake that she wouldn't need his help after all. Then she handed the snake a bag and asked if she knew what it was. I quickly raised my head and looked carefully at the bag. The snake moved even closer to the bag and sniffed, and what came into the bag was just an amazing aroma. And the princess asked if this smell came from her shoes yesterday. This is a powder made from the bark of the calypso tree. And then the snake said that this is her favorite smell in the whole world. The girl asked if I really used this smell to control snakes. She just didn't know how to use it. Size asked where she got this bag from and asked to give it to her. She quickly laid her head on the girl's knee. But Safina did not want to give up this kite bag at all. The snake felt a little sad. He put his head on his knee and thought. Suddenly she opened her mouth and asked if she would bite the girl. Safina quickly pulled her hands away. She felt somehow uneasy. The girl thought that she shouldn't have taken off the muzzle after all. But the girl knew that the snake would never bite her. After all, she swore on the name of her family. At that moment, the snake remembered its promise, and she closed her mouth. Safina sighed with relief. A disaster almost happened right before her eyes. She said that she would answer her question honestly, and in return the girl will give her this powder. I bowed my head. Is this guy suitable? And the girl just expected this. The snake was caught. She said okay and stroked the snake's chin. She quickly threw out some of the powder and sprinkled it on the table. The girl said that this would be an advance payment. The snake looked carefully at the powder, and the girl said that she would decide to give, or the rest depending on her answer. The girl asked the snake who helped her appear at the wedding ceremony that day. The snake began to spin around in this powder and said that it did not know at all. The girl was surprised. This was not the answer she wanted to hear from the snake. She said that it was very dark around, so he was constantly sleeping. I used to eat 5 times a day, but here he only eats 3. The mixture said that when he woke up, she saw that some animals had snuck into his room, but they were masks, so he didn't see who it was. The girl thought about it. Those who needed it acted really thoughtfully. The snake said that there is a way to find out who it is. This entire face was already covered in this powder. The girl asked what method this is. She asked the snake to tell her the ways there. She told me it was a voice and a smell. It was quite logical. Snakes have keen charm and insight. I was told that it was the scent of a Leo woman about 20 years old, and given the way she spoke, the call thought she was working together. Yes, Sophia will definitely be able to prove that those maids are connected with the case. And Sophia asked, if she leads these people to the serpent, will he be able to recognize them? The snake said of course. He also added that he told everything he knew, and he asked if the girl could give him the bag. And so the girl poured a little more powder onto the plate. The snake was a little surprised. This is not what they agreed on at all, or she wanted to deceive him, but the girl said that the snake's answer was completely inaccurate. The snake was surprised. How is this not accurate? He told her everything he knew, and now she dares to say that he didn't agree on something. The snake realized that the girl had deceived her. The girl thought about it, and this snake belongs to the poisonous family. Then why is he defending himself in such a strange way? And he acts deliberately cute. At this moment, Ricardo entered the room. He stood and looked carefully at Safina and at the snake that was crawling on the table. As soon as he entered the room, he smelled a reptile. The snake quickly jumped off the table and doused the girl's neck. Sophia wondered if he was angry that she had brought the family into their room without asking. The girl was surprised that the snake was already sitting on her neck. Take thought the boy was very scary, and he mentally asked his little sister to sort him out. Sophia just laughed merrily. She saw that Ricardo was angry. And the snake also realized that the boy was very angry, and everything is probably due to the fact that it is on his territory. Ricardo looked very angry. The girl mentally told the snake in a kind way to get off her neck. And the snake whined and quickly descended onto the table. Ricardo said that he even found it funny to look at it. Has she really managed to make friends with this little thing? Athena realized that Ricardo had calmed down a little, and the girl said that she just wanted to talk, and she asked her husband where he had been. After all, in the morning she woke up completely alone. Ricardo didn't answer. He covered his cheek with his hand, which had an abrasion. The girl was alarmed. It was not she who hit him on the cheek in his sleep. Of course she slept restlessly, but did she really manage to hit him? She said he was just going for a walk. She also added that because of someone his cheek was hurt. Safina understood because of who it was, even without words. She felt that now she was definitely finished. And he asked how she would take responsibility for this. Safina didn't understand how it was. What should she do at such moments? She asked the boy if everything was okay with him, and was he very scared. Ricciardo said she hit him on the cheek very suddenly. He didn't even have time to defend himself. She completely laughed and said that she was very sorry that this happened, but since she was sleeping, she could not control her actions. It was difficult for her to make friends with the main character. At that moment, the boy looked closely at the snake and asked Safina, did she recognize anything from the snake? The girl hesitated and could not say anything specific. She didn't understand how he even knew that she was trying to get information out of the snakes. That boy knows something. It's not clear why she's mocking her if she wants to help. It would be nice to just ask him for help. Or maybe he should be asked to have the maids next to her. She would be much calmer if someone close to her was nearby. Or maybe ask him directly. And the girl said that she could find the criminal who let the snake in, and she asked Ricardo to follow him. Without me, she looked first at the girl, then at Ricardo. She didn't understand what was happening at that moment. I felt that there was some special atmosphere here. The girl asked the snake to be silent. But the snake had no intention of doing this. She said they both smelled the same, but the girl didn't wear perfume at all. She told me that this scent is like a cool night breeze. The same thing came from her. And when this lion, the snake meant Ricardo, entered the room, the smell became stronger. Sophia didn't understand whether the snake was constantly saying such nonsense. She said that if he continued to say such things, he would no longer receive powder, and she quickly grabbed the bag in her hand. At that moment, the snake quickly knocked off the girl's hand. She asked them to go quickly. The girl did not understand the snake and would continue to sit on it. She said she was a snake and she was a bird. At this time, Ricardo quickly grabbed her by the tail. But at that moment, she wrapped herself around the boy's hand like a bracelet. Ricardo said that he likes to do this with the little ones. And the snake said that Ricardo could call him a snake. I realized that he is only 7 years old now, and about how hard life is. Safina told Ricardo that they should go together. They walked along the corridor, and Sophia began to talk. That day, when she was carrying a basket of laundry, she heard about the maid's plan. It was the same basket that Ricardo brought her later. She accidentally forgot it there under the tree, so he just had to help her. I thought that she had already told Ricardo everything. Well, there was no reaction from the boy. And at first this is only one thing, that he knows something. He looked sideways at her and remained silent. Sophia also turned away from him and walked on. The girl realized that their eyes met very sharply, that she has something on her cheek, and she quickly began to rub her cheek with her palms. But then she told me that there was nothing on her face. Safina did not expect that the snake could even read her thoughts. At this moment, they simultaneously turned to each other, and she flew between them looking for her. His eyes were very close to hers, but the girl couldn't stand her gaze, quickly turned away and ran forward. She asked the boy to go faster, and he stood and carefully looked after her. The girl ran and sat on the sofa. They just walked into her room and she was already so tired. On the way, they called the maids. They were soon to come to the room. Ricardo sat down next to the Sufi, and the snake continued to hold on to the boy's wrist. The snake was very interested in when the suspects would come. Safina couldn't say for sure, but she knew one thing: soon. At that moment, the maids looked into the room. They asked if Safina called them. They bowed together and greeted the young master. The snake quickly looked out at those who had come, and at that moment one of the maids saw that the snake was sitting nearby. She was very surprised. Safina saw that the maid recognized this snake, and it was great. Safina said that she would ask them some questions. You must answer honestly and quickly.